It's no secret that wearing a mask has been a contentious issue in some parts of Oklahoma. In fact, the mayors of two of the first communities to mandate the wearing of masks have been facing recall efforts. Norman's was defeated recently, and Stillwater's is still in process at the county election board. This week, those mayors joined Susan Caddo for an in-depth discussion on COVID-19 and how the public has responded to it.
Yes, Rich, there is so much to dig into here. I want to get right to it. I'd like to welcome our guests who are with us today. We have Stillwater Mayor Will Joyce. We have Norman Mayor Bria Clark. And we have therapists from Stillwater, Marie Abraham Robinson, joining us. And we're going to be talking masks, mask mandates, pushback against mandates, coping with the general public coping with these mandates. I'd like to start by laying a foundation with our mayors, and we'll start with you, Mayor Joyce, about Stillwater. When did you first put a mask mandate in place, and how had that gone up until now?
Well, we've had a couple of different attempts with mask mandates. Our initial ruling around masks came as part of the reopening plan back in May, and we initially put a requirement of mask wearing as part of reopening businesses in the governor's plan for Stillwater, and that was a bit of a false start. We had some issues around how that was going to be enforced, especially among stores, specifically having their employees trying to enforce their patrons wearing masks. So we stepped back from that a bit and kind of reconsidered how we wanted to do it, and then put an actual mask ordinance in place the first week of July.
All right, how about you, Mayor Clark? I understand you were the first in the state. It wasn't Oklahoma City, it wasn't Tulsa, it was Norman.
It's true. However, Mayor Joyce and I did work closely on that. I think it's a big part because we're both college towns and our universities have been great partners throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And they are separate political subdivisions of the state, so they don't have to follow mask mandates. But when we all were able to work together, I think that's made it be very successful in Norman. And we wanted to set, I think, the standard for what it would look like when thousands of young people return to our community, which I'll point out really creates a unique challenge for college towns. You know, in most cities, there's just the status quo of population. Ours alters regularly, which normally isn't a big deal. You know, we enjoy our quiet summers and our bustling school years, but in a pandemic, it can definitely be challenging. So it was great to get to know Mayor Joyce a little bit better throughout this whole thing. I wish it was under better terms, but I've really appreciated his partnership and communication throughout all of it.
Yeah, I know you two have been working together, and that's wonderful to see. But why? When this first started out, there must have been great trepidation, Mayor Clark, about issuing a mask mandate. What did you and the council go through? And then I want to come to Mayor Joyce on that as well. What did you go through as you contemplated a mandate? This is something citizens must do.
Well, we mandate seatbelts. I mean, it for me, it was common sense. The biggest change in my approach to trying to control COVID-19 was that this was not an emergency proclamation. It was an ordinance. And so all of the council members got to weigh in. And I think that was really important in showing that we're all behind this. It's not just me saying you have to wear a mask. We made sure we had our medical professionals attend the meetings when we passed the mandate. So again, it wasn't just us making things up, but it never has been. The science has shown it forever. I mean, look at the 1918 Spanish flu. Masks worked then. Sometimes you have to be the first. And I think the actions that myself and our councils and Mayor Joyce took helped move the rest of the state. And I only wish we had a statewide mask mandate, because the answer at the first was, well, you know, it needs to be city by city because we all have different circumstances, but not anymore. So imagine how many lives would be saved if the whole state had a mask mandate back in July.
Was that unanimous on your council's part?
It was. Norman City Council is often fun to watch. We'll call it that. But we have been united throughout our response to COVID-19. And I know not all councils in Oklahoma, let alone around the nation, have experienced that. So I'm very, very grateful for my colleagues for our united efforts.
Mayor Joyce, what about in Norman? Was the mandate approval unanimous, and why, if so?
It was here in Stillwater, yes, unanimous vote from our city council as well when we moved to the ordinance. Using the ordinance mechanism and getting the full council involved and having that broader discussion, I think made a big difference in how it was received by the community. And again, having those medical professionals come and present and speaking to a number of different folks as a part of that process was really helpful in making sure the community understood what was why we were moving in that direction, and then having the council unanimously support it certainly helps provide a good example to the community.
Mayor Joyce, though, not all of your community accepts the mandate. You and the council have gotten some serious pushback. Tell us about that.
We have, yeah. I think with any action a city council takes in any measure, there's going to be folks who don't agree, and we've certainly dealt with that in other areas outside of the pandemic. But there are certain folks who don't either believe that masks work or don't believe that they should be required. People who have taken somewhat of a constitutional civil rights approach to not having to wear a mask. And there's been a group here that has raised petitions to try to recall folks from office and take different measures to protest the mask ordinance that we put in place. For the major portion of our community, it's really not been a controversy. It's not been something that they've seen as a problem. So, it's part of the job.
Mayor Clark, you've seen the same thing in Norman, right?
Yes, but I would emphasize that even if it's not 100% enforceable, if you get 80% compliance, it still makes a difference, and it sets an expectation. And again, maybe it's because we're college towns. We have, I think, a mostly educated community who sees the science behind it. And that was something that motivated me from the beginning with emergency proclamations and then the mask mandate, was people were emailing and asking for it before we even did anything.
Now, Marie, I'd like to bring you in to talk about why are folks resistant to a mandate to wear a mask when, like Mayor Clark said, we have seatbelt mandates, we have other mandates where you can't smoke in restaurants anymore. Why is the pushback so hard right now? What's going on in our brains?
I think we have to admit that it takes time for us to adjust to change. And all of this happened rather quickly. And so for so many people, it just seemed like it happened. And here we have to make these drastic changes. And why do I have to do this? A lot of it has to do with fear of being controlled, the word mandate. Like sometimes that scares people. Are you telling me what to do? Are you taking my rights away? For people who have been oppressed because of historical trauma, they hear words like requirement and mandate, and people panic when they hear those words. And so I appreciate our mayor having on his social media, spending time educating us, telling us this is affecting him and his children and his family, normalizing it for us. There are also times when people have this kind of faulty thinking, a cognitive distortion, if you will. Someone who thinks this isn't really real. I don't know anyone who lost his life from this. Is it really as bad as people are saying? That is a form of faulty thinking. And there are people who always want to be right and will try to justify that, But as the mayor talked about, people wanting to recall him, I was driving from a funeral of a loved one who lost her life to COVID when I drove by people protesting the mayor, and it just broke my heart because COVID is real. We're burying our friends, we're burying our grandparents as a result of it. My suggestion is we start to use more positive words as we talk about this. We start to call this, a stay safe program, or protect your children, invest in your life, protect your grandparents. Instead of telling us not to travel, when people hear don't do it, you notice I'm pointing, people say don't. And just by our nature, we want to resist that, right? If we turn it into a more positive word, stay safe, save lives, invest in your children, maybe that will make a difference. I also want to say a lot of us are following the mandate with no problem. The majority of us are, and we have to compliment those people. It's just a small few.
There's something more, though, Marie, at stake than just pushing back and saying, you're not going to tell me what to do. There is such a deep skepticism that I think goes into political divisions, and it's so deep a chasm. I don't know if more positive terminology would help at this point.
Here's the thing. I think we have to just continue to hear people and meet them where they are. Oftentimes we show anger as our initial emotion, but we're feeling other emotions. right? We are feeling fear. We may be feeling threatened. We may feel unsafe. We may have, again, historical trauma. There are reasons why people don't want to do this, but reasons that are specific to them, to their experiences. There are reasons why people don't trust the law. There are reasons why people don't trust doctors because of their past trauma. And so some of that's, I think we just have to spend time hearing from people, and then people have to be genuine and honest and not just say, I don't like it, but tell us why.
I want to move into penalties for not observing the mandates. I want to go to Mayor Clark. What penalties are in place for folks who will not wear a mask? So they go into the store, they go into a restaurant or something, they don't want to wear the mask. Are there any penalties in place?
We didn't want to make our business owners and restaurant owners and employees the enforcers. And I think we learned from Stillwater on that one, to be honest, and just around the nation. That's not what they signed up for. But we got requests for the mandate from businesses to say, give me some backup so I can require it. But the council didn't feel that was strong enough. And so what it initially required was a business owner could say, hey, you have to wear a mask. And if they refused, then the business owner could call the police and file like a disturbing the peace. We've recently added a fine. And so it has been challenging to enforce it. We've done other restrictions as well. If you have even a private party of more than 25 people and you can't socially distance, you got to wear a mask. So it is complaint based, and it's been difficult with the police department generally right now. We've had some pushback there. It's been a challenge. I'll be very honest about that, but it has made a difference. It continues to make a difference. And so we haven't issued as many, I think, fines as we could, I'll be honest, but it's more about compliance and like you said, normalizing it. But as I said earlier, even if you get 75 to 80% compliance, that'll make a difference.
May I ask what the fine is, Mayor?
I believe we set it at $50 to $75, and it's per incident.
Oh, okay, great. And Mayor Joyce, what about Stillwater? Are there any penalties in place for refusal to wear a mask?
We don't have an individual fine imposed on our mask ordinance. It allows business owners, as Mayor Clark said, allows business owners to ask people to leave if they're not wearing a mask. And police can respond on a trespassing complaint or disturbing the peace complaint if the business owner complains. The issue of whether individual fines, should be in place has certainly been discussed heavily here and lots of other places. And for us, I think it kind of goes back to what Marie was saying about trying to make it more positive and not create so much of that negative connotation to folks. I think the idea that they could be fined in and of itself engenders, even more resistance.
What would you like to see happen where COVID is concerned, where fighting to prevent more COVID cases in Oklahoma, which our numbers are already so bad right now? What would you like to see happen in the next month, 2 months?
I think a statewide mask mandate would be extremely helpful to the situation. I think it's overdue at this point, given the spread of COVID we've seen over the last just few weeks and couple of months. I think, as we discussed from the beginning, when Mayor Clark and I started talking back in March about how we were going to approach this as a college town, having a consistent approach regionally or statewide really makes a difference, because for Mayor Clark, I think it's probably even more of an issue when you have local restrictions and those aren't in place, 15 miles away. Then people just leave your community, go somewhere else, do what they want to do, get sick, and then come back. And so it's not a specifically local issue that we can deal with just on a local basis. We need, countywide, statewide support for these kinds of mandates, and a statewide mask mandate would help a lot at this point.
Mayor Clark, final words. What would you like to see happen?
Definitely a statewide mask mandate. But, if you think about it, when we shut down our state, part of reopening was the 3-tiered approach. It involved enough testing, enough contact tracing, and enough hospital capacity. We saw a fraction of the numbers and deaths and hospitalizations at that time when that was our plan. We have no contact tracing. Our testing is running out, especially here in Norman, and the hospitals are full. So to sit back and not have a statewide mask mandate, let alone any action besides a day of prayer, is completely ineffective and irresponsible and dangerous. And I think Oklahomans deserve better. When you have the power to do something and don't do it, that is wrong. And it's I'm so tired of having friends call me and begging for more because someone they loved is gone. We lost a former mayor to COVID-19 a couple of days ago. So we need to do something. The status quo is not working, and to continue down this path again is irresponsible, and it's past dangerous. It's deadly.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us, and I wish you much success in the future as we all move forward, closing out 2020. Thank goodness.